Well, hello, guys. My name is Dalton Stevens, and welcome back into the 460 Street Racers Heroes and Legends podcast live at Combs Airport down here in Hager Hill, Kentucky. Today, guys, we've got some awesome guests. One of them you're going to remember. You've seen Kelly Conley before. We got a new guy named Mike Adams over here. You can see I've got Baney Blair next to me. Baney is going to be able to come on potentially sometime through this and be able to kind of share some stories maybe, between all three of these guys. They knew each other throughout their time racing. Back here behind me, you can kind of see Beecher Frazier over here in the peach-colored shirt. We got Greta Sloan from the University of Pikeville over here over my shoulder. We got a whole peanut gallery full of people. And back here on the couch, you may not be able to see them, but they're the Rowland brothers. They just drove up about 5 or 6 hours, I believe, to come up here and sit with us. You're going to see them on the next podcast directly after this, so make sure to tune in and check that out. But, guys, we'll go ahead and get started here with Kelly and Mike. We're just going to dive right into it. Kelly, I was going to ask you what your favorite part about talking with Beecher was, but, Lord, I mean, how can you pick one, right? Beecher.
Hey, he's full of them. Well, he's seasoned. He was drag racing when we was in diapers.
That's right.
Like he said, now he's in them.
Yeah.
Better
than not being here. That's right. Now, I will say, we clipped one portion from the last podcast and put it up, and one of the favorite stories that everybody had was Beecher said that there was somebody at one of the races that threw a pop bottle and hit a state trooper, and we heard all kinds of good stuff about that one. So I don't know if we got those kinds of stories today with Mike. I don't know. Mike may be a little bit more tame than Beecher was. We'll see. We'll see. So, Kelly, just go ahead and start us off real quick. Just introduce us to Mike Adams and tell us just a little bit about, kind of how you first met Mike and how long you guys have known each other. And, and then we'll dive right into the 460 Street Racers portion after that.
Well, Mike Adams, alias Pooh Bear.
Pooh Bear.
Ain't nobody going to know him by Mike, but, well, they probably will, his mom and dad. But everybody else knows him as Pooh Bear. But I guess before the drag racing, me and him and all Baney and all of us, we dirt bike riders, four-wheelers.
Yeah, every Sunday.
Every Sunday, that was our thing. We all met and rode bikes. And I met this little guy riding bikes. So then when it come time to drive, he was getting a vehicle and souping it up and making it fast. So that's how we started, but it ain't quit yet.
It ain't quit.
Yeah. So they ain't the end of the story yet on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to see you guys are still running together, we'll call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the biggest things we got to touch on, obviously, is whenever we got involved in 460. So, you said you guys grew up running dirt bikes and stuff like that. So it's a natural, I think, a need for speed, not to be cliche, but, I think you just want to build it bigger, faster, stronger, and you want to, have a little bit more fun, a little bit more horsepower, right? And there's only so much you can do on a dirt bike,
Right.
Which I know they've said you've got on some pretty fast motorcycles there a time or two.
Had a few.
So, I know Wade Smith has told us a good story about you running a wheelie longer than just about anybody in here has probably drove a car.
Oh, I tried.
Yeah, he is.
But now listen, as these little fellers come up, just like Mike, Budgigs got to where everybody was riding wheelies. It wasn't just me.
We all did good.
We all did it. But if you do it all the time, you either have to get good or die one.
So,
one of the two.
So
either you get good or you get hurt.
You got to figure it out.
That's right.
Right. All right. I like it. All right. Well, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy. Tell me, obviously this is the 460 Street Racers Heroes and Legends podcast, so you're either a hero or you're a legend. I don't know which one you are yet. We'll figure it out. But so, Mike, tell us, man. I mean, how did you first get involved with the 460 Street Racers? What got you down to 460?
Well, like Kelly said, me and him's been lifelong friends, and we rode motorcycles together every Sunday, and from there we started getting cars and trucks and started making them fast. And they had the radiator shop in a big straight stretch, so nothing else to do but see which one you see who had the fastest one.
That's right.
A lot of fun.
Now, we've heard from a lot of guys that a lot of people couldn't beat old Kelly on the strip. Now, did you ever beat him a time or two? Or?
Well, I don't know. Maybe in a pickup, but not in cars, because he had the IROC Z and had the nitrous, so he was kind of hard to outrun.
Okay, so what did you run with? What vehicles were you out there?
I had a 69 GMC truck with a big block in it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anything else you raced, or was that about the only thing you took out there?
I raced anything I had, but that was the one that was the best. That was probably the fastest truck or vehicle I ever had.
Okay.
A lot of times people would pull up in a car, and they'd have a fast car, but they wouldn't want to race it. And people like Baney or Pooh Bear or
Had a
whatever, they'd
truck,
say, well,
yeah.
here, I'll run it for you, and they'd get in it and go,
That's,
the people that have the car.
Right.
But didn't want to get out there and take a chance on getting caught.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. So they wanted to see the car run. They
wanted to see their car go, but they didn't.
They didn't want to be the one.
But you had people like Pooh Bear and Baney that would jump in them and drive anything.
Oh yeah, I used to run a little red express truck a lot. Used to run it.
Yes.
Now, who owned it? Was that
Another lady in town.
okay? All right, that'll work. Well, I mean, what's about the fastest vehicle you ever ran down on 460? Was there somebody that you had gotten in their car and said, "I can't believe this thing"?
Probably at that time, the rides that I took with Kelly in that IROC when he'd really get on that nitrous was pretty stout.
Yeah.
But I know there's faster cars there.
Sure.
Yes.
But not on top they wouldn't, because
Hey.
we've had that thing like 160 more than once. So.
Yes.
We made it back one night from Clay City, like 42 minutes.
Yes. It was
And
fast.
Yeah.
From Clay City back to Zagersville in 42
Yeah, but
minutes?
that was before you had all the Mountain
Parkway,
Parkway,
right.
4 lanes
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah, we made it like in 42 minutes or something.
Just as a frame of reference, how long would it take an average person doing the speed limit?
An hour and a half.
We averaged about probably 115. No
Yeah.
joke.
It would take about an hour and a half because Lexington was a 2-hour trip.
Yeah.
Kelly was in the IROC, Grady was in the Mustang, and I was in the Dodge Daytona
Yes.
turbocharged. And when we got to Bob's Red there, Kelly dropped off right there, and me and Grady got into a little tussle, racing pretty heavy, coming off the big hill there, going into
Yes.
Paintsville. And right at the bottom of the hill, I seen lights coming and let off just in time, and he come in front of me. It could have been bad.
No joke. Well, now I will say, like I said, one of the big points we had on the last podcast, a lot of people were kind of having, and once again, just to make this quick note, we always have to put a disclaimer in here. These guys had a lot of fun, and, they wanted to have a good time, okay? And with, the police and stuff, obviously, they're trying to mitigate our good time for a good reason, to say the least. But once again, we advocate do not try anything you hear on this podcast at home. We don't want you to go out and be running cars, racing cars. Try to do it at a safe, controlled environment, like here at Combs Airport. Shameless plug once again. During the Arm Drop Dragz, Heroes and Legends, we're calling it all kinds of different things. We're still working it out, but it's Arm Drop Dragz race down here on August 30th and 31st, Labor Day weekend. So if you do want to get out and run some cars, have a good time with it in a safe, controlled environment where there's going to be plenty of safety precautions and plenty of people around to make sure you're going to be doing it right, do it here. But to go back to say, guys, Mike, one of the favorite stories that we had last time was Beecher jumping in a car and running from the law, and he wanted to stomp his hat. He did make that a he said he got pulled over, and he said he rode in the front seat of the cop car back on the way to go get hauled in, and he said his hat was in the floor, and Beecher said it took about everything in him. He said he tore himself up the next day because he said he should have stomped that cop's hat.
Yeah.
So Mike, you got any good run-ins with the law you want to talk about?
We've had several. They would come, maybe once a month or something. Seemed like they would show up to try to deter
I
us
think
from
when
racing.
somebody would call in,
Yeah.
they'd have to show up.
Sure.
Me and Baney was lining them up there one time, and we didn't even know the law was around, and all of a sudden they just flipped the lights on behind us, and I go right-handed up into Dwayne's driveway up to Kelly's and Dwayne's, and Baney runs his car on through, but the law comes right up there to Dwayne's and starts knocking on the door. We didn't let him in. He just had to go back to town.
Just don't answer the door.
Yeah.
If you're not there, they can't do nothing, right?
No.
We had some great times. And
Yeah.
They was doing their job, but we was just having fun. It was clean.
Sure.
Nobody.
No harm, no
Yeah.
foul. We was just trying to have fun.
And that's the one thing that I wanted to make apparent to people that watch this that just don't understand, about what you guys were doing. I know technically it probably isn't 100% to the letter of the law legal to, race in the center of a public roadway, but
No.
at the same rate, if you're doing it smart and you're taking all the precautions, and like you guys have said multiple times throughout the other podcasts that we've been on, Kelly, you guys didn't allow drinking, you didn't allow anybody to be there under the influence of anything.
No.
They were very much of sound mind and body whenever they were running these cars, and they were all tip top, and you guys did it as safe as you ever could. Now, I will say this, Mike, was there ever a night, is there one, you're like, man, one story from one night racing that kind of stands out to you?
Uh,
I'm sure there's a lot.
Oh, there's a lot. I think back to so many memories.
It's hard to really
narrow it
just
down to one.
narrow it down to one, you know, but then you'll have stuff that pops up in your mind. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
It was big when somebody new come, you know, like some of the boys from Floyd County, they would get a little something and they would come. And
Yeah.
Steve Buckley come down some, and him and
Yes.
Kelly'd race. It was big nights when somebody new would come with a fast car. We always loved that, didn't we, Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
It was like having a new victim out there.
Yeah.
Somebody you could take down.
Yeah, you didn't really have to go fishing. It just come to you.
Yeah. Now, what was about, I know you said there was a bunch of fast cars out there. I mean, was there ever somebody that ever ran against you, Mike, that you were just like, this dude blew my doors off, other than Kelly?
Well, I had about the fastest truck in town. Me and Baney did have the fastest two truck in town, and outrun just about every other pickup there was. And Kent Rose showed up in a little orange step-side Chevy truck, and it wasn't much of a looker, but now he was a pretty good runner.
It was fast.
Because that was really the first time I'd ever got outrun in my truck. And,
Really?
And at the end of the race, I seen they had that NOS sticker in that truck, and I said, hey, let me look under the hood of that thing. And he said, I didn't ask you to look under the hood of yours. So he said, you're not looking under the hood of mine. But we know what happened, don't we, Beecher?
I was going to say, Beecher, you want to step in and say anything here? I mean, you're more than welcome here. Listen,
They put the blue bottle to me.
Yeah.
What happened there? Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I was going to say, I meant to say Baney a minute ago. I said Beecher, but I forgot Beecher was sitting right there behind us. Baney, is there anything you want to step in? Do you have anything,
That's just good fun.
Just
Oh,
good
yeah,
fun.
it was.
That
Working
Mike
on it.
blew that truck up, and him and Baney put a big block motor in
Gotcha.
it there at Baney's house.
Yeah. With trees. I'm literally.
Yeah.
I ain't
They
no
made him
lie.
a tripod out of trees, and
With trees.
Yeah, I've always been a logger, so
Okay,
I'm
so you-
pretty good with the chainsaw. So I cut us 3 poles but like that, and we wrapped them up and put 3 on each side and put a pole across the middle, and we got that motor up there, that big block motor up there. It was a cracking and a popping, but we pushed that truck and under it and got it in there, didn't we, buddy?
yes,
Nate, you said you blew your truck up. You did that on the track? You did that whenever, or not, I guess not on the track, but on 460, or
Well, just racing, probably fast.
who was you racing? Do you remember?
I don't even remember exactly, but
I don't remember that neither.
I'll
I
tell
you
you-
and Baney was probably running up and down the road hitting
it
each
was
other.
on
behind him.
172 when it blowed up. I was coming by Orville, and the law had been after me.
Oh yeah.
And I floated it out right there, and had parked beside the road. And
Where'd you get the motor?
got it behind Bob Wallen's store? And
What'd
I
it come out of?
come out of an old truck at Bobby Drick, and it was mashed up. It'd been had on, hadn't it, Baney? It was a rough looking old truck, but the engine was perfect.
It run good.
Yeah, it run good.
It's a 402. It was a camper special. The
Yeah.
camper specials
Had that big cam in it.
Yeah, it had a 402 in it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't remember
yeah,
where it come from. I guess we knew then.
We put the
but-
cam in it, didn't we?
yeah.
You put the cam
Yeah,
in.
you put the cam in it for me. It made a good running truck, a beautiful truck too.
But that just goes back to like we was talking before. We didn't send it to a garage.
Right.
You done it in your backyard or in your own little garage. You figured out a way to fix that thing.
Yeah, these two right here they could do it now.
And you had to. That was your transportation.
Sure.
Just like Baney said, daily driver, that was Mike's. He drove it everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
So the same truck that you was going to go to the grocery store in, you was hammering down on 460 in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Drove it everywhere.
So Mike, you said a second ago that Kent Rose brought out his truck, and you said that was about one of the fastest ones you'd ever ran against. Was that the first time you'd ran across him? I mean, whenever you saw that truck, or I mean, have you met him before that?
I'd met Kent in the plaza one night. I was going around the plaza, and he worked over at the car wash in town, and every time I'd go around, he'd just like staring at me, and I thought, man, what's this cat looking at, And me being me, after about 5 or 6 trips, and Kent's like 6'4" or something, and I'm 5'6", so I just got to thinking about it. I guess the little man syndrome kicked in on me, so I pulled in, and I said, buddy, what are you looking at? Kent said, buddy, I like your truck. And from there, we just made friends. and
That's the way it happened.
Started racing, and I always was friends with Kent after that, and enjoyed being around Kent.
Well, awesome.
Well, and Mike hung out a lot at J&S. That's where Sam and Joe was.
Okay.
And Grady was
Oh,
in
yeah,
there.
Grady worked there, yeah. That's where we got all of our parts, cams, and everything.
And then Kent worked there.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So
it all the whole circle come together. But a parts store really helped.
well, that's what I was going to say. So have we talked about JNS before? On any of the
No,
previous?
Baney might have thrown some in there, but
You say okay. I was gonna say. I mean, tell us. JNS parts. I don't because I know we had talked about you guys like to work on your own stuff around here. We talked about Beecher Speed Shop and stuff like that. So what did JNS offer?
it was it CarQuest or Napa or what?
Well, it was both.
Both.
Yeah.
And
Conquest at the last, yeah.
them one of them had a Corvette.
And Joe
then-
had that Grand National.
Yeah, that's right. And then Sam had the Mustang.
Mustang, yeah.
Well, now hold on a minute. Joe had that
Corvette.
little white yeah,
SVO, yeah.
that little Mustang.
Then he got the Grand National, and he come raced a
Yeah.
few times out there with us, with the Grand National.
Yep. But that was just our local parts store that just happened to be one of the buddies that was frequenting the 460.
It made
Drag race.
it made for the parts store that we had really made for good racing because they was from Floyd County, the boys that
Yes.
had the parts store, and we was all from Johnson County, so that got like Steve Buckley and a bunch of them boys from up in there coming down our way.
Right.
Because of Kent.
Yeah, because of Kent.
So then that brought you boys together to be able to kind of
Yeah, they'd bring people, they'd get people with cars up there, like Street Machine, Brad Martin, they'd bring him down.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the reason it got so big at 460 because you had all these guys coming down and even people from Pikeville and other
The
places.
counties was
Yeah.
just,
Because see, I didn't realize this. I was actually, it was funny enough. I was talking to my dad yesterday, or the day before, one of the two, about because he had watched the first podcast, he listened to it, and
yeah.
he was out on a job somewhere, and he just turned it on, was just jamming out to it, and he said, he said they used to do that up there, I guess on 119. He said up towards Sydney, they used to do racing on 119 back in the day too.
That's where the Curry Boys was.
That's okay. So
I got away from the law up there one night. It was real foggy, and I was getting ready to race this Corvette.
Yeah.
And they was all kinds. They took 100 to jail in school buses
Oh, my
that
God.
night.
no joke.
If I can get up with them Curry Boys, I want to try to get them to come down and talk to me.
Yeah.
But we was up there racing or getting ready to race, and it was real foggy, and seen some lights a flashing, and up there, it wasn't really a good place.
Sure.
The area wasn't real good because you had that grass median in. It was not a valley; it was a hump.
Right.
And if you had a very low car, you wasn't going to run and get across that. You'd tear the bottom out of your car.
Right.
But them cruisers would come across it.
Yeah, they didn't care. Yeah, they'd be able to drop down in there no problem. They had to.
By the time they got across, I'd already give mine everything I had and hit the nitrous, and off into the fog I went. I went down the road just far enough to where I could shoot off and go over that little Nolan Pay Bridge and get on 292.
Gotcha.
And I headed up through there, and I guess at that time I was doing a lot of radiator work for Massey, and I'd been on a lot of those jobs. Just up 292, about a mile, there was a little approach that went down to a strip mine, and you could go down and hide yourself right there beside the road.
Mm.
And I shot down in there, and they went on. They didn't know that I'd shot. It was so foggy you couldn't see
Sure.
25 foot in front of you, so I got away anyway. But they took a bunch to jail that night for unlawful assembly. That's what it was.
Really? Because everybody was just gathered around, just waiting to race. is
Standing
what
on
it
the
was.
side of that road on.
Now that
119.
was the state police that did that, or you was at the? And I know it may be tough to remember. Would you think
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
like
state police.
So I wonder why? Because I guess I've always had the question. I wonder why they didn't do the same to you guys down there at 460.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't really controlled up there on 119.
Sure, and that's what he said. He said they got real wild up there on
They-
119.
At Kelly's, you had that big parking lot, and everybody would be in that big parking lot, which was private property.
Oh, okay. So they couldn't actually do that. But
Yeah.
on 119, they're just out on the side of the public
Standing
roadway.
right on the road.
Yeah. So they're just okay. So I guess that makes a little bit more sense.
Sitting on a guardrail.
Yeah.
Well, if something would happen, one of them blow a tar or something mess up, they'd have took out 25 people sitting there on the guardrail.
No joke. Because that was another thing I was interested, because I didn't realize, obviously I was born in the 90s, so, I guess the street racing as the way we know it, or what you boys knew it back then, it doesn't really happen now.
No.
There's no way you could do it with all the communication and everything else everybody's got nowadays. I mean, anybody could call, at any point, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many different races there were just staggered throughout Eastern Kentucky. I guess people had done this.
Everybody was doing it in
Right.
their own little places, just like I'm sure people will watch this show and say, "Oh, we've done that too." They did.
Oh,
Sure.
Yeah.
That's how we would find them.
Yeah.
We'd hear they had a fast car, and all we wanted to do was just go see if we was faster.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was a bad thing or nothing.
Sure. And he had mentioned, I thought this was interesting because he said we would have, like you said, 50 or 100 people. He said he never ran any cars. He said he just went out and watched.
Yeah.
And I guess it does make sense. It is interesting to be able to see, all these different new cars and somebody come down, lay the nitrous to it. Because, like you guys were talking.
You got to have your spectators.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that makes it more fun. If you're just racing another person, if
Yeah,
it's just you and
nobody's
another
seen
guy.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
You just get done one time,
You
you're
got
done.
bragging rights, but that's
But if
about it.
everybody saw it, then it's a different story. So, all right, Nick, I thought that was super interesting. I mean, just to know that there was all these different races going on all at one time.
Was you talking to your dad because you said he come down to my market and bought some meat? Kelly's Market.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, if you live around Eastern Kentucky and you pass through Oil Springs, be sure once again to stop by Kelly's Market
get you some meat.
and pick you up some meat. See, if Kelly ain't anything, he's a businessman. So be sure to swing by and check it out.
Fresh meat.
But that is what he said. He said he had stopped in and picked up some meat, and he had mentioned it because he said, I was listening to that podcast at work the other day, and it made me think about the time I was up at 119. And I was like, well, I didn't even know they ran cars up at 119.
Yes.
He said they ran them all over the place. I guess they used to run them up, what's the road going toward Elkhorn?
80?
Is it 460 still?
460 and 80
So
runs up through there.
So I think there was another group of people on 460 over toward Elkhorn.
Yeah.
They did a bunch of racing and stuff back in the day is what they said.
There were some boys, I don't even know what, maybe Datsuns or something that come from Jenkins
Really?
one time. But I don't really, I think Kent or some of them boys up in Prestonsburg had funneled that down in our direction.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was talking, and that's what they had said. They said there were some smaller races back in there, and I don't think it was anything to the level of what 460 was, based on the number of people you guys have said showed up.
There was about that time that we was a racing, the Addingtons had just built a road from 64 over to Greenup, over to Wirtland. It's called Industrial Parkway over through there, and we would hear that there was a lot of drag racing going on over there because they had just built that for a 4-lane, but one side of it was still grass, but the 2 lanes that was there was no traffic. It was a real good, when you drive there and see it, you'd think this is a perfect place to drag race.
Right.
But I never could really catch nobody there. I drove there a lot, and at the time, you drive an hour and a half to maybe get a race, and
Okay.
then could never catch nobody there. But I never did get acquainted with anybody in that area
Gotcha.
to be able to get with the end to know when they was there.
Right.
Because here we was a race in our time. Everybody knew at 10 o'clock we was going to go race.
Right. So if it was Saturday night, was it Saturday? You said Fridays and Saturdays you guys raced,
Yeah,
right?
and then there for a while, it didn't really matter Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was all week long. If somebody had an itch, they showed up. And I was always right there in the garage, either working on a car or painting or
Right.
doing something to my motorcycle, and they'd pull up and say, "Hey, we're gonna race." Well, I'd run down there and flag them.
Well, yes.
Gates open.
So Kelly never got any work done back then because everybody just wanted to come out and run
Yeah.
cars in front of his house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but back then you was young, and you could lay out all night and then work the next day, and then as you get older, you need your sleep. Or I do. I don't know about you little fellers, but I got to have my rest now. That's the way it goes, Beecher?
Hey,
Oh, you can't now?
one thing we ought to bring up was some of the races was money races now.
They
Yeah.
was.
Some of these
Yeah.
races was for money.
Yeah.
I remember Hard Times Kestner.
Oh,
Had that
yes.
old car, and
He was one of the big money. He wanted to,
he wanted to
wanted
race
a
for
dollar.
$500.
He wanted $1 or he didn't want to run.
And Kelly and Rick had that little Camaro fixed up.
Yep.
And had nitrous on it, and they just outrun him like a half a fender. He'd go home and take the motor out of that car. Dude, I mean, he'd just go all through it. And
Him and Rick Caldwell bet all the time, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and they'd come out there and run again, and it was some of them races was money races. wasn't
Yes,
it?
they was.
I loved them, really did.
Now, what's about the most money you all ever seen somebody lay down on a
Well,
race?
most times like $500.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I mean, if somebody was like, "Hey, I run you for 100," that's
yeah.
not too
Well,
uncommon.
I
but-
didn't ever put up any money.
Okay.
No.
But
Kelly was-
everybody would always bet on us. You
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
people standing
That's what
there in
you
the
said,
crowd,
right?
You'd have your spectators, and that's what they come for. They
Right.
wanted to. They had an addiction that we didn't have. We wanted to race. They was gamblers.
I never did bet on myself racing either, but I know he didn't. But people would bet now.
Yeah.
They would bet on him.
That makes it fun. I get it.
A little wager.
Sure, right. It makes it interesting. Obviously there's a little, something a little at stake. Obviously, I know we talked about you racing on pinks and stuff like that, and I think that does make it interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the competitive side of people that just wants to win, and that's in terms of the racers.
Yeah.
That's a big one of it, right? Like you just want to be the best, and I think
Yeah.
that's just being a guy. You
Yeah.
just want to
Yeah.
be better than everybody else. So that is part of it. But too, I can see back then somebody's like, hey, I put 100 on Kelly. He outruns
Yeah.
Mike on this pass. And it's like,
Yeah,
all right,
and
well,
back-
I'll take it.
Back then, 500 was like 5,000.
I was
Oh,
going to
yeah,
say,
it was.
yeah, 40
Yeah.
years ago, 35 years
Somebody
ago,
throwed up $500, but I
Yeah,
think
that
they
was a lot
they
of
had
money.
something at stake.
they were serious about it, huh?
Yeah.
So
Baney's uncle Marion.
Yeah,
He had a fast car. Baney always drove it.
He was one of them guys that
he won
had
that
a car
money.
like Pooh was talking about, but he wouldn't drive it. So hey, I will.
oh, so he
He was a builder.
Yeah, he was the builder. It's his car, but I don't think he ever did drive it one time. You
No.
know, he got it off his brother, and it started as a split bumper Camaro.
What was Grant?
Grant
Cantrell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
See,
Grant.
now Grant was a drag racer, wasn't he? He did
that's where
drive.
that car came from. Was Grant Cantrell?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Is
Cunningham,
Grant dead now?
Yeah,
Grant dead.
Ronnie Cunningham drove it at Clay City for Grant.
Okay.
And Marion got it, and they said, well, Baney won't hold it wide open. Marion said, I bet you he will. So I did,
They didn't know Baney, did they?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was their guinea pig, old Big Head over at Biggin from Syersville. He had a
Yes.
little Vega, and he put Lex in it, and he said, where's Baney at?
That's it.
I was the driver, they know I would drive it,
Hey, Joe and him brought that little Vega out
So-
there too.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. You
They
remember
was-
that, Baney?
Huh?
Joe and them had that little Vega. They brought it to Kelly's, and it was a street car.
Yeah,
There was some street cars raced out there a few times on your all's place.
Yes.
Out there.
yeah.
When you get to talking about it, you remember all these little things, but
Yeah.
we forgot about more than what the kids today will ever do.
Yeah,
They're too busy with a phone or a
Yeah.
yeah.
computer.
We had a lot
Well,
of clean fun.
And that's one reason why, obviously we had the idea that we wanted to do this because, I think there's a lot of people that need to hear these stories, that otherwise may not have the ability to come and sit down and talk
Makes
with
them
you
get the
guys
itch
about
and
it.
maybe want to go do it.
Exactly.
Let's build us one.
Exactly. And now that's something that me and Gina, we were talking about before that because talking about all these different pockets of racers all over Eastern Kentucky, because, back then, like you were talking about running from, Syersville down to Lexington, everywhere else on the
Yeah.
Mountain Parkway, man, it took a minute, like it wasn't as quick and easy as it is now.
The arm drop will bring all them little pods together.
And that's exactly what we were talking about with Kent Rose whenever he wanted to come together with the arm drops. He just wanted to say, let's bring them all to one place.
Yes.
And everybody know about it, So
It is safe.
and it's and that's the biggest portion of it, you know what I mean? And obviously, guys, like I said a minute ago, we've already plugged the arm drop drags for this upcoming year. But seriously, I can't tell you, we had almost 10,000 people show up last year. We had 200 cars. People came from I don't know how many different states. Gina's got the statistics on it, but man, they were coming in from all over the place because it's just a sight to see. These guys were talking about very isolated incidents that happened on 460, that happened 30 and 40 years ago. Not to date anybody, it was a minute ago, right?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Ain't it though? So, and that's another portion of it. You know what I mean? Like, this is today. We can be really safe about it. It can be in a very controlled environment, and we can have a lot of fun. And Combs, you just got to see it to believe it, right? If you've never been down here and you're listening to this podcast, you got to come down here. Gina always tags stuff. No place like Combs. And it's 100% true. We have a great time down here, and every single one of us. Obviously, we're all getting together to talk about these stories because it's just for the love of what we do, and And, if there's something you want to do and you want to come down here and have a good time with it, come down to Combs and hang out with us. Once again, it's going to be August 30th and 31st of this year. So be sure to come down, hang out, run a car or two. Also, I forgot, Gina's over here pointing out to me, we're wanting to have like a 460 Street Racers reunion. So, these guys
That'd
right
be
here,
great.
we want to have you guys, if you come in, we got Beecher right here. Bandy's going to be there. Kelly.
The Rowland Brothers.
We got the Rowland Brother. I mean,
they come in.
And once again, we're going to have the Rowland Brothers on our next podcast right up after this. So be sure to check it out. They got an interesting story, a couple stories, I'm sure, from after the time that I think Kelly was around. So this is going to be a bit of a different perspective so far than what we've heard about the 460 Street Racers. And to kind of cap that real quick, Mike, I mean, did you guys, whenever the 460, did you kind of stop racing at 460 around the same time Kelly did?
Yeah, once Kelly was gone, it's just.
Well, we just moved on to other things.
Sure, right.
It's like everything was good.
Right, yeah.
The plaza was big into what went on, too. I mean,
Yes, it was.
the plaza, people don't understand, just sitting here talking to you all right now, in the plaza of a nighttime on Friday and Saturday night,
Yeah.
it was like
It was a car show.
It was
Now-
1,000 cars, and everybody had them all shined up, and you had your vehicle looking the best.
Go
you-
meet people.
Yeah, and everybody sat around there, and then that's how the racing would get started. You'd say, "Well, I think I can outrun you," and
I bet that thing runs pretty good. You
Yeah.
wouldn't want to race it, would you?
then we'd have to go to Kelly's.
Yeah, we got a spot. Let's go.
Let's go.
Now,
And you'd see people that you didn't never see before. They'd float in there, and that's where you'd strike up your race. Hey,
The plaza was big. wasn't
would
it,
you
Kelly?
run? I've got a buddy. He's got a little red truck. Would you be interested in running him? What's it got in it? Just old motor.
Yeah.
well, and that's what I was going to say for the people that don't know, what was the plaza? What, like, where,
Well, it was like Walmart now,
okay.
but it was a bunch of different stores. You had
Right there where-
TGMY.
It's right there where McDonald's, the Loopy's, and
Kroger's.
Arby's, and all that.
Okay.
That was nonstop. I mean, Friday
A
and Saturday
parade.
night, it was like a parade. Literally, car to car, give a signal. And, your night would be go there and make 10 or 15 laps to see what kind of cars was there, and then pull in, and me and Kelly and Baney would sit over there and look for something, maybe to race or something.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. We had it.
remember before Sean got old enough to drive, he'd talk his mommy into taking him down there, and she would cruise the plaza.
Yeah.
Around the extended circle, around
Letting him see all the cars.
all night.
It was it was a great place.
Down there, cruise the plaza
Yeah.
before he got
Well,
old enough to drive.
It was a great place. It's where I met my wife.
Really? See?
Yeah.
So,
You'd drive around and try to find a race, something fast car, fast girl.
Her pretty little girl.
so see, I mean, and see, that's interesting because now, and I tell this, I'm 30 years old myself, so I'm not the youngest person in the world, but I'm not, I've been kind of in between these two generations of, back then when people used to cruise around and stuff, now people just don't do that.
No.
So I think it's interesting to be able to hear that you guys used to just go out and just kind of cruise around, just kind of
Just
hang
mingle.
out. And just, right.
Yeah, every Friday and
We called
Saturday.
you wet behind the ears.
Every Friday and Saturday, that's what we were
Yeah.
doing.
And that's the thing, like where Kent started with the little big wheel.
Sure.
You get a kid, you give him this big wheel, and all of them's the same. That little guy that got on there, he's the motor. He's got to make that thing go faster.
Right.
He's the one that
Yeah.
makes it fast. So then that probably just started a little gearhead right there.
And that's what I was going to say. You start them young like that, and they're out, they want to go faster, and then it just kind of snowballs.
Yeah.
Right. And then we
Then
get
I'll
out
bet you $1 that little fella goes back home with that big wheel. And then his neighbor's got one, and he's over there. That started the race. So now he got that thing because he went to a race. So he's going to be racing with his neighbor. See if his big wheel's faster than theirs.
Right.
Before you know it, he's going to be doing that with a car.
Mm-hmm.
Then having fun.
Awesome.
We've had a lot of good people at the arm drop. One of the first arm drops, Jeff Lutz was here with that old 57 Chevy.
Yep.
And then Butch Reed, he was the first one or second one from down around Berea. That little Mustang that runs so good.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a lot of good people in here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brings
So
a lot of people together.
right, and that's and we were talking about it last time. With Beecher. One of the things I regret now starting this off, I should have put a microphone on Beecher. But we were talking last time about all the different people that come in, talking about pretty big racers and stuff. We were talking about the Hoskinsons. You know, and that's one of the, I think from an outsider's perspective, you know, I've only been in this world for 2 years now, thanks to Gina. I never knew anything about it, right?
Right.
But I think it's interesting that, you know, that you've got these people that do this literally day in and day out. Their lives
They
are,
live it.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Their lives are racing and coming out to these tracks and going to these different places. And I think it's interesting that we're getting them all right here in little old Hager Hill, Kentucky at Combs Airport, you know?
You know, there's some people made a good living out of doing that. You know, for us, it was just a hobby.
Sure.
And, you know, we finally grew out of the little hobby. And you still got that in your blood. You know, even whenever you go on and you become a full-time logger.
Sure.
Or somebody working on radiators all the time.
Right.
Or whatever you do. But some people, they make a living
Oh, yeah.
doing that.
Absolutely. And that was one thing, Mike, I meant to ask you a minute ago. So, I mean, do you still race from time to time, or
Well,
you still get
I'm
the
not
itch?
gonna say I wouldn't. If I seen Baney on the street there somewhere, me and him might hit it a lick, might be Baney.
It don't have to be a race car. It
Right,
just-
right.
It just,
It can be a grocery.
yeah, just whatever you're in. And that was the thing of it back then.
Right.
It didn't matter, like I said, if it was an S10 truck
Sure.
or a Volkswagen. Didn't care. Just as long as you had two people sitting out there and you raced them.
Yeah. If I could sell all my fishing gear and my boat, I could probably get a pretty good car. I could probably get a pretty good car, I'd say.
Hey, you
He
slowed it
does
down.
a lot of fishing with kids now, so
Oh, okay, I
he's
got
doing
you.
his part with kids, kind of like
Yeah.
same thing.
Okay, I got you. Because Mike, I mean, tell us a little bit about. So you do fishing and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, I've fished tournaments for probably the last 20 years or more.
Really?
And I've been boat captain for Bryce McDonald and Ethan Elliott for the last 2 years. Tim McDonald died, and Bryce asked me to be his boat captain, and I've spent a lot of time with them boys doing that. And they're not into racing, but now they like to go fast in a bass boat.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing when you take off. You know, they have a shotgun blast. You want to see who can go the fastest.
who can absolutely cruise. And that's one thing. Now, we'll make a quick sidebar here, and then we'll jump back to 460. And two, I want to talk a little bit more about the race coming up here at Combs. But talking about bass boats and moving, Chris Ferguson, the guy who runs Casting for Kids,
I know.
you know Chris. Okay,
Yeah,
so
he knows Chris real good.
yeah. So Chris, man, we started doing a little bit of work with casting a couple months ago, and we got out there on the water. We was on Cherokee Lake. It was either Cherokee or Douglas one of the two. I think it was Douglas. Now that I think about it, we got out there and he absolutely floored that. But I'd never in my life, I had no idea a boat could go that fast.
Yeah, they're
Hey,
really-
Mike, could you and him race boats?
Yeah, it wouldn't go good for him.
He wouldn't go good.
It wouldn't go good for
him.
Chris.
Now,
All right, Chris, you're
did
getting
you hear
called
that,
out,
Chris?
He knows no
Get
better.
the
He knows
big
better than
Ferguson
that.
boat out.
Now-
Let's see how fast it is. Mike wants to run you.
Now I will say that
I
is,
say I've got the fastest boat in town. I guarantee that.
okay. All right. Now that's the first time we've ever had somebody get called out on a bass boat. Now I will say that that's new to the game right there. So Chris,
it's
if you're
off.
if you're
It's all
watching,
fire.
if you're watching, son, he said we'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's all over. But
Huh? Well,
It'd be good.
I'll try.
Get on a jet ski on one
Yeah.
of your stand-up jet skis.
If,
He used
get
to
me
ride
some of them
stand-up jet
flippers,
skis.
and if I can stay up in the air long enough.
You remember those stand-up jet skis?
I remember it.
Oh gosh.
I got a ticket hauling that thing back from Wilmington, North Carolina.
he'd ride it up
in
the back of the truck.
a car. I had it in the trunk of my Regal. They didn't have no trailer. I bought it down there and went on vacation and stuck that darn jet ski in the trunk of that car. Got a speeding ticket. Come out of that tunnel over there. I was flying, and you can't have a radar detector over there either. So
oh, gotcha.
the girl that was in the back seat, I throwed the radar detector to her, and she throwed it under the seat back there, and that cop come up there. He said, "Buddy, what are you doing with this jet ski in the trunk of that car?" I said, "I bought it." He said, "You didn't have a trailer? You didn't steal it?" I said, "No, I got the title to it." Let me see the title. I give him the title, and he said, "Well, where's the trailer?" I said, "He didn't have a trailer. That's why I got it so cheap." He said, "That ain't safe hauling it in the trunk of a..." He stepped back and looked at my car. It was one of them Regals.
Yeah.
I mean, I raced it, but I drove it everywhere too.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Where's your radar detector?" I said, "I ain't got no radar detector." He said, "Mr. Conley, you do have a radar detector." and you're gonna give it to me. And they took my radar detector. They don't give them back either.
I know. I've seen that happen a time or two. So
Yeah, and I still got a ticket.
He used to come to Paintsville Lake with that old stand-up jet ski, and he'd back his truck down in the water and run that jet ski back up in the back of that truck. He didn't have no trailer for it.
that's
No,
what I
I
was
ain't
trying to
no
figure out. How in the world did you get it in the back of?
Why? I'd take it running across Paintsville Lake and run it up in that grass because it'd slide just as good on the grass as it would in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Then when you got ready to ride it again, you had to drag the thing all the way back to the water, so
So you had to do it.
don't go very far.
I was going to say, so it was a lot easier to get it out than it was to get it in.
I've still got that.
Dude,
You still, well, all right. So we may have to get Kelly.
He's like Beecher. He don't ever sell nothing.
I was-
Yeah, I sell radiators. That's what people say. What do you want for that? I don't want to sell it. I just sell radiators.
So we just need to take a camera one time, go to Kelly's house, and just look at all this old stuff
no.
he's got
Got it.
kicking around. So,
Oh, Lord.
would
It's
be-
like Fred Sanford and Son.
Oh man. Well, so Mike, I'm gonna cut back to you real quick here. Don't forget, Chris, he called you out. But so Mike, tell us. You know, Kelly said earlier they call you Pooh Bear.
Yeah.
So I mean, can you tell how in the world did you get nicknamed Pooh Bear?
Well, I have to give that for Jerry Daniels, old JD. We was riding the school bus one day, and I was probably about 15 years old. And he said, "You know what you look like?" And I said, "I had to ask." I said, "What's that?" And he said, "You look like a little Pooh Bear." So I've been Pooh Bear ever since I've been about 15. So
Just stuck with you.
yeah.
And I didn't even know his name was Mike for years.
Most
You just
people-
knew him by Pooh Bear.
Most people didn't know my name.
No, you didn't.
Right.
Pooh Bear and Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, when I ran for commissioner, I was afraid not to put it on the signs because I know most people did not know my name.
Somebody be like, "Who in the world's Mike Adams?"
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what to think.
So I put Mike Pooh Bear Adams.
It's just like Baney. They wouldn't.
Yeah,
Baney.
Baney.
Nobody know.
Right, because you're Dwayne, right? Is
Yeah.
that
Dwayne's
it?
the name, but if you say Dwayne Blair,
Yeah,
they'll be like, "Who
nobody
you talking
knows.
about?"
Nobody knows him by that.
yeah,
Yeah.
him, Baney. Yeah, oh yeah.
Everybody had a nickname.
Yeah, and that's he's Hard Times Kessner, and Easy, and all
Yeah.
those. So why do you think everybody had nicknames back? It just it's just
I don't know. It was just short. It was just a little short name.
Seemed like nicknames was big back then.
I was gonna say because I mean nowadays you don't hardly ever hear that anymore. Younger generation they don't really call anybody by no nicknames. It's
Yeah.
just but that's
crazy.
But I mean that's interesting. I love it. That you guys could hey old Pooh Bear, and they're like yeah.
And everybody knowed him. It wasn't like your name. It had to be on your birth certificate. No.
I know one we need to get in here, old Bear Ely.
Yeah.
Old
That
Bear.
Bear's dead.
Bear's dead, but now Bear was a big time racer, and
Yes.
he was a Dodge man. He was a Dodge man, and a good guy, wasn't he, Bane?
And he was good too. He put a lot of people together because he was an older one like Beecher.
Yeah, and he knows.
Okay.
And he could say, "Hey, I'll tell you who's got one of them, or a set of heads, or something." He knew he was a big trader too, so he knew
Okay.
where a lot of hard to get parts was.
Dodge
okay.
parts, especially.
Yes,
Yeah,
and him and them Owens boys was big to communicate together.
Oh really? Okay.
The ones that come out of Columbus,
Okay. Yeah. I remember you telling me about them.
Springfield. I was talking to one of them boys' brother this weekend. I think they were from Springfield.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So-
remember them.
So I'm trying to think. Well, so Mike, tell me. You said you had a GMC truck, is what you said, right? Mm-hmm. You still got it?
I wished I did. I sent Kelly pictures of it last night, and that's what I put right after I sent him pictures. I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
No, it blowed up.
Right.
It blowed up out there, and it was sitting out there at Kelly's shop.
It sat there for months.
Yeah, with a blowed up motor, and I bought me a new pickup, new Chevrolet pickup, and Kelly calls me one day. I think that's when we had the old bag phones. And
Yeah.
He called me. He says, "Hey, there's a guy out here wanting to buy your truck," and I said, "I don't want to sell it." He said he'd give you $2,500 for it, like it said, and I said, "Sell it to him."
Yeah.
I think it's
That was the end of it.
I
I
think
wish now I'd never called.
Yeah.
I think it was a week or two before I even went and picked the money up. But
Yeah.
I was working for Addington Brothers at the time and didn't have time to. I told Kelly, I said, "Sell it to him." They give $2,500 for it, and it just a shell. But now it was a good shell.
Yeah.
It was. Wonder where it ever went.
I don't know. That was an Arizona truck. It didn't have any rust. It
Yeah.
came from Arizona.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was perfect.
So, and about what time? When you say what year you think that was around?
Oh, that was probably. I can get close to that. That was about 19. I think that was about 1990. 91, 92 that I bought that new truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that by that time you kind of just chill back on racing a little bit. You weren't racing near as much
Well,
anymore.
Not as much.
Sure.
Yeah. At that time, it seemed like we all started almost like road racing.
Yeah, we did.
We'd lower these vehicles down and drive pretty fast. I don't know.
We'd run from Paintsville to West Liberty, or
Okay, gotcha.
find a good curvy road and
Try to do one. Okay.
not just a quarter mile. Try to hold it on the floor for an hour.
Right. Yeah, because well, that's Manny was telling that one story on the show you guys did about Kent wasting a whole bottle of nitrous on the way down to Clay City, wasn't it?
That's what, just like Mike was saying, when we'd come back from going to Clay City,
Yeah.
we'd race all the way back home. You know,
Yeah.
that was an hour of racing.
Right.
Yeah, it was a testosterone.
Yeah, you had to have
I was
it.
going to say, you don't just get a quarter mile. You're hammering down the whole way. So
Oh,
you just,
yeah. And wasn't the worst thing of cars coming, you could see them coming, deer.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That was the bad culprit right
Now-
there, because they'd come out in front of you and mess the whole deal up.
no joke. Did you ever have one?
Oh, we just lucky.
I was gonna
We just
say.
lucky.
Because I can imagine, normal people just driving, they hit deer all the time on Mountain Parkway. Mountain Parkways eat up with them.
Yeah.
We need to
So-
get the good Lord in this, because I guarantee you that a lot of them, probably everybody here that used to fool with racing wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the
Oh,
good Lord.
they'd be
because
watching.
He had to look over us, because the things we did was. Well, when you
Just
look back
riding.
at it now, you're thinking, man, how am I even here? You know.
Yeah.
And now that's one thing too. I think a lot of people, they're like, man, I can't believe nothing ever happened to these. And I'm sure there's stories out there. But thankfully nothing ever happened to any of you boys. Everybody's still hanging around here, able to tell our stories and have a good time with it. But
Old
Yeah.
Laney's really lucky to be here. I used to hit him in the hind end on 172, and it's a curvy road.
Yeah.
so whenever you guys was driving, you used to come up and just kind of bump him a little
Pop
bit.
him,
Look,
son.
can't believe you know your
I'd
background.
pop him.
Is that all you got? Get out of my way.
Yeah, I'd pop him, and he pulled over at Bob Wallen's one time, and he said, Pooh Bear, he said, you're going to wreck me, son. He said, you're picking my hind end up off the ground. He said, you're going to wreck me.
Don't do that in a curve.
Yeah, that's what he said. Don't do it in the curve.
And me and Bainey would meet each other,
Oh,
and
Lord.
we got this little thing going, and we would switch lanes.
Hmm.
Don't do it.
Yeah, please
Don't do
don't
it.
try that.
Bad habit. We would just meet each other, and we would swap lanes, and I would take the left one that he was in. He'd take the left one on his side, which was my right one,
Oh man,
and then we'd just switch back.
and just keep going.
And if there was anybody with you
Yeah,
and they didn't know what we was doing,
Oh,
I bet they
no.
scared half to
well,
death.
they'd stomp a hole
I
in
was
the
gonna say.
floorboard over there trying to get it stopped.
Oh yeah,
I'd like to tell one more little
Where the good
story.
Lord
yeah. Let's hear.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to tell one more little story. My brother, he's passed away since 2016, and one time we was coming up 172, and lo and behold, there's Kelly in the little Ralph Spriggs truck, the little
That little blue one.
little blue lowered truck, Bainey.
Yeah.
And Scott, whenever he seen that blue truck, he said, "Oh God, Mike, please don't start this."
I've got pictures of that little blue
I
truck.
mean, more or less, he got in the floorboard, and he's like, "Please, Mike, don't start this." Well, of course, it turned into a little bit of a race.
we turned it on.
And I'll never will forget. He said, "Please, Mike, don't start this."
He crawled in the floor,
He got in the floorboard. Of
begging.
course, Kelly just had a 6-cylinder, and
Yeah.
I finally got around him. But he was down there and said, "Please, Lord."
Mike had more horsepower than I had, but mine would stick the road
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
darn good.
It
But
was-
he found a gap and he got around me.
Straight stretch there.
Yeah,
At,
when he had-
MLC right there.
Right there at the MLC, he went around me like I was sitting still. But then in the curves, I could hang with
Oh
him.
yeah, right there. It was.
Now I was gonna say, so did y'all use nitrous? Running them back there too.
Well, I didn't have it on that little truck.
Okay.
I didn't have it.
But Mike didn't have it. He didn't use it. But I don't.
It's a good
I
thing
didn't-
we didn't.
I don't really know why I didn't put it on that little truck. I didn't keep that little truck very long.
Okay, gotcha.
It
Now-
was just I swapped for it. It was a nice little truck.
That thing would be worth 30 grand right now. I guarantee
Yeah,
you.
a little square body,
No joke.
Beautiful little truck.
little
Okay.
step side.
We gotta make sure we find a picture of it.
I got one.
Okay, good.
I do.
Now, for the people that don't know, and I can't remember if we talked about this on a previous episode or not, but is it pretty hard to put nitrous on a vehicle?
No.
No. Okay. Tell us in very, very silly person's terms. Somebody doesn't know. How do you put it on?
If it was carbureted, you just jerk the 4 bolts off the carburetor, and have somebody hold it up long enough for you to slide that plate under there.
And it's
Stick it
good to
back
go.
down on there and put your bolts back on it, and then run your fuel line and your
Tubing.
Your tubing. Yeah, just run your line to the wherever you're going to set your bottle. Hook a toggle switch to it.
Okay, so then the switch, you just hit it, and as you now, if you needed more, you just press and hold it, or could you flip it on?
Yeah,
or
just
how?
how long you held it was, of course, your bottle would run out.
Sure, right. But that's what you said that you guys would pick up more and more bottles as it went, though, right? And
Yeah.
you'd just throw them back in. Okay.
Yeah, then you started trying to, if you wanted to find you an extra bottle off of somebody.
Yeah.
And the medical nitrous was the same stuff. You could use it.
Really?
Yeah. Then when you go to the dentist and they give you the
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
that's the same thing. It's just the racing grade of it's got something in it that makes you sick.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Make you puke if you
Okay.
try to suck on it.
All right. So for the people at home, don't use the racing grade stuff. Make sure
No.
make sure you're going to a well qualified dentist, not one of these holler dentists we got around here. So
Yeah.
they might hook you up to a bottle of NOS.
But you'd find you an extra bottle, and then that way, if you did squirt too much, you could always switch it because, like I said, you didn't just stop at a gas station and get you a bottle of nitrous.
Right. It was tough to come across.
You had to go find a place to fill it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got you. All right. Well, Mike, is there anything else you want to throw on? Now I don't want to keep you boys too much longer. I think we got some good stuff today,
Well, I
man.
appreciate y'all having me up here. And It's
Yeah.
always good times when you're with old friends.
I was
Anyway.
gonna say absolutely.
He may remember something else that we done after today.
Now look here.
There was a lot of something else's.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, Mike, you may have a story to turn Kelly red here in a minute. He might get he
Well,
might be tore up by
Hey,
something.
a guy that'll jump a motorcycle off of a rock into a lake would do anything. Or a
Oh,
four-wheeler, he'd do anything.
I done it.
Okay, real quick. Jump a motorcycle off a rock into a lake.
Yeah,
You
they might do it.
we got to hear it now. You can't.
I think we was all just riding, and we ended up there at the lake, and there was this rock up there that everybody would swim off of, and I guess I got thinking it'd be pretty cool to
Jump that motorcycle
jump
off.
that motorcycle off into there.
He jumped her off.
We done 4-wheelers.
Yeah.
Them
That
4-wheelers will float.
First time though was that motorcycle because we had to take it apart. And Kelly,
Run it.
Yeah, Kelly was a guy that could rebuild a motorcycle like on the spot, like on.
We do it beside the road.
Yeah, I've seen him file rings down on the blacktop.
That was on
And put 'em back together.
That was on Conley Creek at Flat Gap.
Yeah,
Sitting there, is that where them Soured boys lived?
yeah,
Right there.
yeah, exactly where it was at. Yeah.
We had one lock up right there. Just so happened had a set of rings that we had changed it before, and we took that thing apart right there beside the road, and rubbed them rings,
on the
flip them
blacktop.
over on the blacktop. We rubbed them.
Put it back together and run
It
her
run
on
the rest of the day. Did it?
Yeah,
It
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
real good, but I mean, it got us back home.
we've been through a bunch of things together. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, guys, listen. I hate to cut us off on that story because I know I want you want to hear more, but we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here, guys. Really appreciate y'all coming out and hanging out with us again for episode 3 of the 460 Street Racers Heroes and Legends podcast. Once again, guys, just one last quick plug on this one. You see me wearing my Arm Drop Garage shirt. I promise you I changed clothes. It's just I love this shirt though, right? And the last one they saw me wearing this same hat and this same shirt, but I was going to say, guys, once again, be sure to come out to the Arm Drop Dragz. We're going to have it here at Combs Airport in Hager Hill, Kentucky. Get your hotels booked now. They're booking up quick. Gina was just telling me the other day that they're starting to run out of rooms in surrounding hotels. So, it's going to be a big time down here. We're absolutely going to blow the doors off of anything we have happen around here. So you're not going to find a bigger, better, more exciting event in Eastern Kentucky happening other than the Arm Drop Drag. So make sure you come out Labor Day weekend, August 30th and 31st down here at Combs Airport in Hager Hill. You're going to see a lot of the same guys here. Hopefully we'll see Bainey here. Hopefully we'll see Kelly here. Looking to hopefully have Beecher here too. It's going to be a good, big old time. Mike, you going to come down to the Arm
I'm gonna
Drops?
come out.
We're going to have Mike down here too. So, once again, if you're part of the 460 Street Racers and you want to come back and hang out with some of these guys, we're hoping to have a little 460 Street Racers reunion here at Combs. So if any of these stories resonate with you, if you look back and say, I remember, Mike and Kelly, I remember Beecher, I remember Bainey, any of these guys, make sure you come out and hang out with us. Once again, on the next podcast, be sure to tune back in. We're going to talk to the Rowland brothers. They were kind enough to drive up 6 hours and hang out with us. We're going to get them on the podcast here in a little bit, and you're going to see that. after this one. So make sure you tune back in. Once again, thank you very much, Pooh Bear, Mr. Mike Adams, for those that don't know him by that name. Kelly, appreciate you coming back out again. Baney over here. We got Beecher back there in the back, and the Rowland brothers are sitting around. Their turn's coming up next. But, guys, be sure to tune back in if you want to hear more stories about Kelly jumping motorcycles into lakes off of rocks. If you want to hear more about Kent Rose running out full bottles of nitrous coming back from Clay City, we got the whole time, okay? It's a great time here on the US 460 Street Racers podcast. Like I said, we'll be sure to catch you back in the next one. Have a good day.